Hey guys, Kyle here, and today we will be working on a voting system for things such as voting on what map to play or who's the imposter. And so I will be kind of going through this video in a series of steps, which I will have timestamps for in the description if you ever need to come back to a specific step. Hopefully this will show some interesting behavior that even advanced or intermediate command users may think is an interesting way to approach this. So in the example problem, we basically have four things that players have an option to vote on, whether they want red, blue, green, or yellow. You could think of this as if you're voting on who you think is the imposter, or if these different colors represented a map, so you're voting on what map you want to play in this minigame. And so the first thing we need to do is make a normal dummy scoreboard called vote. This dummy scoreboard is going to hold everything, and I mean everything that we will be working on. Now we basically have to have an input method. The input method that you choose needs to be player specific so that you don't accidentally make somebody else vote. That's why a button is not a good idea, because when I click the button, the command block does not know who clicked the button, and so it just has to pick whoever's closest to it. And so that's why I'm using signs. These signs basically are created using a website generator. And what they do is they have text for the name on it. And when you click it, it runs a scoreboard that sets your vote score. And so when I right click on it, @s refers to the person who clicked it, which is very safe. Now @s is whoever clicked it. You can click it from anywhere. It will only pick you who clicked it, and you will get the vote score set. And so when I click it, I will get a vote of 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. Now this vote number is going to indicate what I voted for, and if you had a system with more options or less options, you would basically just change the number. So 0 or nothing means that you didn't vote, and 1 is the first option, 2 is the second option, 3 is the third option, 4 is the fourth option. There's going to be a little bit of hard coding here. So the first step on the path is to tally the votes. We need to figure out how many each option has. And so we basically need one command for each option. And what the command will do is it will store onto a fake player. And whenever I say fake player, if you're not familiar with that, it's just a name of a player that's not possible. So you cannot name yourself with starting with a special character in Mojang. And so I don't have any chance of somebody named .red joining my lobby and screwing up the system, because it's not a player. It could never be a player, but it can still hold a score. And so .red vote gets the result of whatever is run, and the command that's run is if entity @a scores equals votes equals 1. Okay, and so when I run this command, you'll see that it says test failed. So red gets 0 because 0, it found nobody. But if somebody was on red or multiple people are on red, it will say the result will be whatever is after this count, and the count will be the number of players with that vote. And so in this case, test passed count 1, and now red has a count of 1. But we click this and now it's updated. So red has 1, blue has 0, green has 0, yellow has 0. And basically what I did was I just said blue is vote equals 2, green is vote equals 3, and yellow is vote equals 4. Just very copy pastable. You have other ones you want to do, you can do other things. The name that I used for the fake player is completely arbitrary. You can just use 1, 2, 3 if you want, 1, 2, 3, 4 if you want. That's all up to you for your organization and remembering what you did in the past. Now, for the next step, stage 2, is to figure out what the max votes are. So which has the most votes? First, you have to figure out what is the most votes, or what is the biggest amount of votes. And so you use a scoreboard operation. So basically what you do is you say that the max votes is equal to red. And that's obviously not a good assumption if, for example, blue is one that is voted for and there's nobody voting red, right? But you basically are going to do iterative steps onto this max. You're going to just kind of say, update the max as you go. And what you use is this very little known command operation called greater than or less than. And what it does is it basically will say that if the right side is bigger than the left side, then the left side will get the value of the right side. And so what this does is it will copy red, and then if red is smaller than blue, then the max is blue. Then if whatever you saved from before, either red or blue, is smaller than green, then the max will be green. Otherwise, keep whatever the previous max was. And finally, if any of the previous steps were smaller than yellow, then yellow is the max, surely. And so this basically just builds it. And if you had more, you would just basically copy this last command and just change it to whatever the additional things to test it against are. Now that we have what the max votes are, in this case, our max is 1, and now we have to figure out which of those fake players has the max of 1, and then we have to figure out what the score is for the choice, 1, 2, 3, or 4, and then finally, we need to assign one, and we need to take in account when the votes are equal. That's going to be important. And so that is why we have a system for picking the winner. And in this case, it picked the choice as 2, and we will cover how to get that. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if the max votes is equal to however many votes red has, okay, then that means that the choice was red, right? And so we're going to give every player that who voted for red a tag. And here's why we have to give that tag. And you'll notice later why we have to give that tag. Because if red has the same votes as blue, if both of them have 1, then it will take precedent whatever the first or last is. So what we're doing is we're giving a uniform tag that everybody gets if it thinks that that's the winner, and we're going to use that tag with some selectors to pick a random one when there's a tie. Okay, so if red won, then everybody who voted for red gets a tag. Then if blue won, if blue is equal to the max, then everybody who voted for blue gets a tag of 1. And if green, do the same, and if yellow, do the same. Now all we have to do, it's very simple, is we have to say that the choice is going to be anybody who has the tag, and we will pick we'll order it randomly, and then we will pick one of them. And what this basically does is if 3 players vote for red and 4 players vote for blue, 3 players vote for blue, then it will give a tag to 6 players. It will shuffle those 6 players in a list and pick the first one on the list. And so that's the same. So that's a very quick and effective way to basically pick between 2 options randomly, because we know that they have to be the same if max was the same. And also keep in mind that this selector will only work for online players, but as we set up in the beginning, this only grabs the votes from online players. So if you vote and then you disconnect, your vote won't be counted. Okay, and then finally, basically, we come to the last step, which is just displaying the output. So if the choice is 1, say that you picked red. If the choice is 2, say that you picked blue. If the choice is 3, say that you picked green. If the choice is 4, say that you picked yellow. And finally, we have reset vote, just so that you need to do reset star vote, which resets every single player, even fake players, and even players offline. And what this command is nice for is so you don't have somebody that say they voted, but then they went offline, and then they come back like way later at a different voting sequence, and now they have a vote score, even though they're not part of that current decision. And so that's why you need to do the reset star. You could also just reset players that rejoin using a scoreboard to detect when they rejoin. All right, so I have Taste 62 here to come do a demonstration with me. So I'm gonna vote for red and he's gonna vote for green. And when I click this button, it will say that it picked green because it picked a random one between the 2 of us. Now when I did it again, I voted for red, he voted for blue, and it picked red because again, it's just going to randomly pick between whoever has the max votes. Now if we have the same, we both have green, then it's going to pick green for sure because green is the max. So that's just some proof that it works on multiplayer for the different use cases. Thanks Taste for hopping on and helping out with that. Anyways guys, so if you like that, please leave a like. Let me know in the comments if you thought this was useful or maybe an interesting method you hadn't thought of before. Personally, I found working on this very entertaining. I want to thank Soggy Milk in the Discord for suggesting it like 26 days ago. If you were actually to use this in a map, I would basically go ahead and take this chain and this chain and this chain, just make it one long green chain. You don't have to do them with repeaters. I just did it for demonstration purposes. Of course, my ideal implementation would be with a data pack, but even if I were implementing this in a data pack, I would really just copy these lines directly and print them out in one long line because there really isn't any ways you can use subfunctions to make this any better in the current implementation. But anyways, that's all for this one, guys. I'll see you next time. Peace.